Hello and welcome to Front Page, only on the AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. It's a pleasure to have you with us. I was thinking, Silicon Valley is currently deciding if AI is a tool to help you or just a new way to sell your toothpaste. But while I guess the giants trade blows over ad breaks and deep fakes, India is quietly setting its own table, focused less on the hype and more on the infrastructure needed to actually run the show. If you want to find out more, here are the headlines. OpenAI officially begins testing ads inside ChatGPT for the United States free and Go users, marking a massive pivot towards ad-generated income, while rival Anthropic doubles down on a strictly ad-free future. Databricks hits a $5.4 billion run rate with 65% growth, weaponizing $7 billion in new capital to prove the interface layer is done and dusted, as AI agents now build 80% of its platform's databases. ByteDance's Seedance 2.0 has seized the AI lead, delivering watermark-free 2K video with native audio, surpassing Sora 2 in storytelling control. It triggers a massive market rally and deepfake security alarms. India marks a strategic shift from AI action to impact, launching indigenous models and a 100,000 GPU roadmap at the first ever Global South AI Summit to drive inclusive innovation. Welcome to Front Page, a pleasure to have you with us. The dream was a very pristine digital clean slate, no Caesar-inducing banners, no soul-crushing pop-ups, just you and the machine finally understanding one another. Well, look at the time. That dream just went up in smoke. The public didn't just complain, they let out a collective glass-shattering scream. The Super Bowl ads were a mockery, but OpenAI didn't so much as twitch an eyelid. They just bulldozed right over the critics and have given us the beautiful gift that keeps giving: ad-generated income, the real AGI we've all been waiting for. But you know what? OpenAI needs to drop the corporate act and put the cards on the table. This isn't some oopsie in the code. It's the master plan they've been brewing since day one. So if you're a free user or on the $8 Go plan, you are the product. Logged-in adults in the US are the first in the firing line. OpenAI promises three things. Number one, ads won't touch the answers. Number two, advertisers won't see your chats. And at number three, most importantly, trust is core. But you know what? Here's the snag. Trust is just like a glass trophy in a house full of monkeys. It's effortless to shatter and nearly impossible to glue back together. So let's just forget calling this a very simple software update. It's a flat-out survival tactic, the kind of frantic pivot you make when you realize the monthly rent is due and your bank account is showing single digits. And of course, we all know that ChatGPT isn't a social feed. We don't scroll past it while eating lunch. We actually pour our lives into it. We spill our deepest secrets, the spiraling debt, the chronic health scares, or the slow-motion train wreck of a failing relationship. And just as things get vulnerable, as they probably already have after I've read that list, the machine leans in with a sponsored link, lurking at the bottom like that one cousin we all have who tries to sell you a crypto scheme at a wedding. Well, look at the trend. Users begging ChatGPT to guess their vibe or roast their career. It's addictive, it's everywhere, and it's the ultimate digital ego boost. But isn't the irony staggering? We have gone from asking friends and actual living beings about who we are to asking a cluster of servers to define our existence. And the punchline? Well, that cluster of servers is already auctioning our personality and soul to the highest bidder. Anthropic spent $8 million on a Super Bowl spot. No fancy CGI, just a message. Claude will remain ad-free. It was a surgical strike. They mocked the awkward, badly targeted future. They didn't name OpenAI. They didn't have to. Sam Altman, of course, fired back. He called the ads dishonest. He called Anthropic's stance authoritarian. He says OpenAI is for the billions, not just the elite. But you know what? Wait. He promised never to inject ads inside answers, no? But today, they just kicked the doors wide open. Welcome to the great trust war. Anthropic is trying to be the foundation, the quiet, steady concrete holding everything up. But OpenAI is going for the total monopoly. They want to be the actual air that we breathe. Well, which, to be fair, is basically the air we breathe now, except instead of smog and dust, it's just 100% pure, unrefined ads. Well, this is how it works. OpenAI says they match the topic. Look at your past chats, look at what you have actually clipped before, and they claim it's aggregated data. No names, no memory access. One can even dismiss them. One can opt out. But then, of course, there's a tax. Opt out of ads and your daily message limit shrinks, which basically means our attention has a price tag. And with 800 million users, even a small exodus won't stop the mammoth machine. And of course, here is the front page take. Look, the question which is confusing the hell out of me is this. If we are truly on the verge of a godlike superintelligence that can solve the universe, why is it currently trying to sell you a discounted VPN? When the finish line is a digital deity, one doesn't stop to dig for loose change. One is almost excited to burn the house down to get there first. This annoying monetization strategy only happens, according to me, when you realize that the road ahead is actually long, brutal, and terrifyingly expensive. I feel the real hurdle here isn't the math. It's actually a monthly electricity bill that would make a Mumbai landlord faint. OpenAI didn't sell out. They picked a weapon. Massive reach over purity. Anthropic chose a different mode. Building trust over raw volume. Both, of course, are massive gambles. But once you let the advertisers into the room, the undo button breaks. The machine stops working for you and actually starts working for the guy paying the tab. So the point is free AI worth a privacy tax higher than a Bengaluru security deposit? That's what I would like for you to tell us in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, and subscribe. And always remember, think AI, think AIM. Welcome to Front Page. It's wonderful to have you with us. So if ever you want to know if an industry is about to cannibalize itself, look at what the engineers are actually doing, not what the PR team is saying. Databricks just put out a report that shows software companies are staring at a massive problem they created themselves. For 2 years, we've been told AI is just a co-pilot, a little digital assistant that helps humans type faster. But the data shows that's a lie. Companies have moved past using AI for suggestions. They're using it to build the entire foundation of their software. The machine isn't helping the coder anymore. The machine is actually replacing the need for the coder entirely. This looks, of course, like moving fast and breaking things, except the thing getting smashed is the career path of every computer science grad in the country. But of course, before we look at the actual wreckage, I would request you to please hit like, share, and subscribe. And of course, welcome to Front Page. Databricks just reported a $5.4 billion revenue run rate, which is a 65% jump over last year. If you look at where that money is actually coming from, $1.4 billion is tied specifically to their AI products. They've moved way past just testing the waters. To keep this going, they just grabbed $7 billion in new capital, $5 billion in equity at a $134 billion valuation, and another $2 billion in debt. They're hoarding this cash to hire every engineer they can find and buy up enough computing power to make sure nobody else has a chance to catch up. Databricks CEO Ali Ghodsi is making a move that should give every SaaS founder a permanent nervous twitch. For years, software companies protected themselves with a moat of complex menus and dashboards that took weeks of training to master. It was job security. But that wall is crumbling. Because when you can just talk to your software in plain English, the fancy interface becomes about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. It's just invisible plumbing. The numbers at Databricks confirm it. Their Neon team found that nearly 80% of the databases on their platform are now built by AI agents, not people. So imagine you're running a small home business and you suddenly need a custom system to track a massive surge in orders for, let's say, mango pickles. Instead of begging a developer for 3 weeks to build the architecture, you just tell an agent what you need and the database builds itself while you're still slicing the fruit. I have to say this. Please forgive me. Ye dil mango more. Had to do it. That actually becomes a reality. Basically, the creator economy has a new lead actor, and it doesn't need a vanity van, a Diwali bonus, or for that matter, a soul. But now, of course, for the billion-dollar question, where is that $7 billion going? Two words, Lakebase and Genie. Lakebase is a serverless Postgres database built specifically for agents. It's the foundation for a world where bots are constantly building and updating their own back ends. Then, of course, there's Genie, feature which brings an end to the era where you had to beg the IT department for a simple spreadsheet. Basically, Genie lets any employee chat with their data in plain English, bypassing the SQL gatekeeper, who treats the company database, well, like a state secret. We've felt it. So, if the lakehouse is the massive library of information, Genie is the person who actually knows where everything is and can just give you the answer. It's data access for the rest of us. No coding, no tickets, and no waiting 3 weeks to find out why your vintage scooter parts are stuck in customs. Investors, of course, are obsessed. Why? Because they're smelling blood in the water. If agents can operate tools directly, your favorite workflow software gets repriced, and that too very fast. The moats are shrinking. Ghodsi's warning is loud. Some SaaS giants will pivot. Others will cling to seat-based pricing and old-school menus. And of course, those are the ones that will get cooked. It's like actually bringing a Nokia to a Tesla fight. So, I want to understand what the funding really signals. Databricks is already free cash flow positive. They didn't need the money to survive. They took it to dominate. They want to be the safe, armored foundation while the rest of the software layer turns into a mosh pit. So how are the vitals doing, you ask? Here they are. Net retention rate above 140%, 800 plus customers paying over $1 million, 70 plus whales paying over $10 million. This is just financial gravity. When this much money moves this fast, the rest of the industry has two choices. Either find a pulse and keep up, or just lie down and wait for the flat line. And here, of course, as always, is the front page take. This, of course, is the AI economy with the mask getting ripped off. The infrastructure is for bots, the data is gated, and talking like a human is the only interface left. The question isn't whether AI replaces developers. It's what you, yes, the builders, the disruptors, are supposed to do when the boring part of your job is suddenly being executed by a machine for free. Databricks is betting that SaaS is about to become nothing more than just elevator music while agents take over the room. So, of course, what we want to understand is, what do you feel? And we want your inputs in the comments below. Are you ready to let an algorithm build your entire back end? while you're busy scrolling, or is this trillion-dollar dream just a giant bubble looking for a needle? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. The video you just saw, it isn't real. It is 100% AI generated. No actors, no camera, no crew. And if you thought you could spot the glitch, you couldn't. Most people didn't. Seeing is no longer believing. ByteDance just stealth dropped Seedance 2.0, and that frantic fight for your attention, it just went scorched earth. Forget the glitchy, surreal hallucinations of last year's clips. We've actually moved past the gimmicky stage into something far more permanent. ByteDance rolled out Seedance 2.0 in limited beta on Gemeng AI. The pitch is bold. They call it a true multimodal creator, where one combines text, images, video, and audio. The result? Cinematic, multi-shot narratives with natural language control. Independent testers at CTOL, the Center for Technology Outcomes and Learning, did not stutter. They called Seedance 2.0 the most advanced model on the planet. They didn't stutter like I did. Better than Sora 2, better than Google's VO 3.1. That one sentence sent ripples through the market. Media and gaming stocks hit their 20% daily price limits. That is, of course, because I believe that the investors finally acknowledged that this is a full-scale eviction of the old guard and not just a mere pilot program. But don't you think that the hype usually hides in the details? Seedance 2.0 nails 4 things the West is still chasing. And number 1, director-level control. Upload a clip, reference the camera movement, the pacing, the energy, and Seedance clones that cinematic brilliance onto your new scene. Then, of course, at number 2, multi-scene storytelling. We have all experienced that the biggest hurdle in an AI video, consistency. Usually, the character's face changes every 5 seconds, but that is not an issue anymore on Seedance. It ensures the lighting, the face, and the visual language remains consistent across multiple shots. Moving on to number 3, which is native audio. That, of course, is the game changer. Most AI videos are silent. One needs to add the sound later. Seedance generates video and audio together. Dialogue, ambience, even the footsteps. It's perfectly synced in a single pass. And finally, at number 4, the speed. 2K video, which is 30% faster than the last version. Complex scenes in under 60 seconds. And here is, of course, the very exciting part. No watermarks, no Sora logo, no Google metadata, making it an amazing feature for creators, but a scary, flashing red warning light for the rest of us. Now, of course, it is time to peel back the curtains, so that, of course, we can bring to your attention that in this race, the so-called winner usually brags about physics. OpenAI's Sora thinks like a physicist. It calculates gravity and light. But Seedance thinks like a filmmaker. Because ByteDance has an unfair advantage. They own the TikTok and Douyin datasets, which means their training has taken place on attention spans and not just pretty pictures. And because of that, they have clocked the exact millisecond your thumb starts to twitch and it wants to leave. They've cracked the code on the precise hypnotic pulse that keeps you glued. So it's basically a digital IV drip of pure weaponized satisfaction straight to the brain. And here, of course, as always, is the front page take. So if you're hunting for the catch, Congratulations, you have found it and it is spectacular. Public trust is currently at an all-time low, somewhere between street side mayonnaise and a landlord promising your full deposit back. We've all gone through that. The tells are vanishing. The uncanny valley has been paved over for luxury high rises. The melting faces and alien hands are finally a thing of the past. Regulators are in a panic, like a parent, well, of course, seeing a C grade on a report card. And of course, Europe is already hunting the worst offenders. But as we know, this technology doesn't wait for permission. As for the power dynamic, it is drifting east, shifting from neat gimmicks to a total industrial revolution. You know, maybe I feel the next global blockbuster might not come from a studio with a bloated ego, but maybe from a person with a server and a wonderful dream. We believe the war isn't over pixels anymore. It's actually over who owns the canvas of our imagination. And as of this second, ByteDance is the one holding the brush. Please do let us know in the comments below, is this the end of the camera? This is, ladies and gentlemen, of course, Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Welcome to Front Page. In 1947, a newly independent India stood before the world. We, of course, were a nation with a broken economy, but what was wonderful was the fact that we had an unbreakable will and we wanted to construct our own future. We called it a tryst with destiny. Fast forward to today, February 2026. We are standing at the edge of a second independence movement. But this time around, the territory isn't land, it's intelligence. For 30 years, we've been the world's back office. We were the people the West called at 3 a.m. to fix their tech issues, while they sat in the captain's chair. But this week, at the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, the power dynamic is changing hands. This is the first time the Global South has grabbed the steering wheel of the most important invention since the steam engine. We are, of course, moving from a nation that supports technology to a nation that builds it. We put 10,000 crore rupees on the table to build a national brain that doesn't answer to Silicon Valley. We aren't just trying to keep up. We are declaring that the future of AI isn't going to be decided in a Palo Alto garage. It is going to be built in the heart of India. We believe this is India's digital sovereignty finally realized. And helping me, well, talk about this and a lot more, as always, is the brilliant Mohit Pandey, who is our very own tech journalist, who covers the IT sector. He covers India AI startups, and of course, he also covers AI Bharat. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Mohit? As always, a wonderful pleasure to have you.
I'm doing great, Sudhir. Thank you so much for having me today.
Pleasure.
Looking forward to this discussion.
Proud moment, no?
Yeah.
Mohit, how are you feeling? I mean, this is the first time that India is on the global stage with such a huge summit.
I mean, we at AIM have been talking about it for the last 3-4 years at least, that India should build sovereign AI models ever since GPT launched. And now, finally that it's happening, it feels like a very proud moment.
Yeah.
And finally things are taking shape.
Let's actually start, Mohit. I mean, I think the first thing that is a moment of focus for us as an ecosystem is the fact that we are going to be showcasing 2 models from our 12 founders who are the startups and people who are building up these models, Bharat Gen, Sarvam AI, and of course the others. The Prime Minister had met with them. This was about 3 weeks back, 4 weeks back. We'd done a story on it as well. It was more on the lines of like a catch-up or a progress report on where do we stand. How important do you feel is this moment for us?
Yeah, I was speaking to all these founders after they met Prime Minister Modi, and there was one statement that stood out of everyone, was the questions that our Prime Minister was asking them. That stood out for them, like how does this guy know so much about Indian AI? And apart from Sarvam and Bharat Gen, there are 6 more models that are going to come out. That is what India has said.
Would you like to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so basically Sarvam and Bharat Gen are building the base models, like the foundational models. So other companies like Socket, GAN, Gyani AI, and Fractal as well and Tech Mahindra.
Right.
So they are building models that are focused on specific sectors. They are also built from scratch.
BharatGen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarvam are the language models.
These are also the language
These
models.
are also the
but
language models.
It's like, for example, Sarvam and BharatGen are building the GPTs.
Sure.
And Tech Mahindra and everyone is focusing on specific sectors like healthcare,
Fair enough.
education. And so Socket AI is focusing on defense.
Right.
Tech Mahindra is focusing on healthcare.
Right.
So these are going to be models that are trained on that specific sector, specific data sets. So they can be specialized for that. If you, like, for example, you cannot ask medical questions to GPT, it will give some stupid answers. So they want to focus on those sectors.
Although, of course, that's another conversation, but GPT is going towards healthcare.
Yeah.
But that brings me to this then, Mohit, that this 100,000 GPUs number then becomes all the more relevant, no?
Yeah.
Because that's what the government is pushing for.
Yeah. So they had 34,000 GPUs as of now.
Yes.
That is, I think, a mix of H100s and Intel GPUs and AMD GPUs. And I think Minister Ashwini Vaishnav is saying that they're going to get around 100K GPUs by the end of this year. So, I mean, that is going to be a huge number. And I think most of those...
When you say a huge number, Mohit, as always, it would be nice for our viewers to understand the context in terms of the comparison. Because we always talk about it from the point of view of China and US, it being a two-horse race. We, of course, are trying to make sure that we are part of that race and probably hopefully galloping ahead at some point.
I think when you compare it to OpenAI or maybe XAI, they have a lot more GPUs. But since we are starting out, we are focusing on specific sectors. And plus, the one thing that I think is most important is most of these GPUs are going to focus on the inference part of AI now.
Fair.
Because the training, I think, has already been done. These models are already ready, according to me. And they're just going to announce it at the Impact Summit. I think Sarvam's all these releases is an evidence for that.
Right.
So I think when it comes, but inference also requires a lot of GPUs.
Sure.
Because now these models are built. Now it's going to come to our smartphones, our laptops.
True.
So they have to keep running all the time.
Fair.
So I think we will obviously need more GPUs. But 100,000 is a good start, I think. As long as they are good GPUs, like Blackwell.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I believe there was also discussions about maybe the B300s also coming into the fray as far as that is concerned.
So
but before I move on to the revenue aspect, Mohit, I wanted to ask you, there are going to be luminaries at the India AIM Summit.
Yeah.
What sort of an impression do you feel that these demonstrations or the launch of these indigenous models, which have been made with a lot of hard work, what kind of an impression do you feel that do you expect it will create?
I think it's going to be a very great summit. With I think the most excited me personally is Sam Altman is coming again to India, and this, I think this is the first time Anthropic CEO is coming. I'm not sure. So that is something that is very interesting to me because we are competing with all these giants all this while. And finally they'll come to India and they'll see how our models are performing. Maybe they might be happier this time, not like the last time when Sam Altman came, but yeah, I hope. And it creates a great impression, right? Because as our ministers are saying, like this is like the biggest summit of the global south.
True.
So I think it's a great testament to what India can build. And now that we are focusing on use cases, I think it's like a very different, it's not even a competition with OpenAI or Anthropic anymore.
But why should we even think of it that way, to be honest?
That's what exactly we have been talking about, right? I think we discussed this as well last time, that the economic service said that it's very expensive to build foundational models. And now that we have built foundational models, now we are focusing on use case. And I keep going back to, me and Amit used to talk about this, I think 1 year back, 1.5 years back, that Nandan Nilekani, he used to keep talking about that we shouldn't get into this race of building foundation models. We should focus on use case. And I think now people are finally realizing that he was actually right. But and I think people are understanding that. And even Yanli Kun used to talk about it when he came to Bangalore for one of the Meta AI Summit, that India should focus on the use cases.
Which makes sense also, Mohit, to be honest. I mean, why compete at something where you already know that it's a losing battle? Far ahead, leaps and bounds. So how about creating your own trajectory?
And yes, we have another battle that we can actually win on. For example, Sarvam, for the last week, they've been releasing so many models that are outperforming GPT and Gemini on Indic tasks. So we have a battle that we can win on, and they can never win on that because we have our own benchmarks, we have our own data sets. I don't think GPT, Gemini, and all these models have ever seen an Oriya language model, or
Right.
maybe Oriya text.
True.
So if we can outperform on that, I think we have a whole race, not even a race, we have a whole
There was another model which I believe has been released today, the server model.
Sarvam Arya. So it's
Arya,
not a
yeah.
model, it's an architecture. So basically, everyone is building a lot of AI agents, right? Claude Code, people have just gone crazy building agents. So what Sarvam has decided, they're going to make an orchestration layer, an orchestration platform. Now enterprises can use these Claude agents to assign agents specific tasks.
Okay.
So that is something that no one is actually talking about, that you're building all these agents. How will you enter them into enterprises?
True.
So Sarvam has cracked that part as well. So I think
is,
Indian engineers
fabulous,
are now showing a lot of
Initiative,
promise.
and promise, And of course, I'm also looking forward to Bulbul, the launch of Bulbul.
Yeah. Bulbul was actually launched, and it's a great model as
Yeah.
well. It's in 22 Indic languages. And I haven't tried it myself, but I was looking at X, and a lot of people have already started building apps on it as well.
Nice.
So that is.
I believe it's free,
free.
Right through February 2026.
Yes, it's
right?
free for this month. So yeah, it would be great if more people build apps and figure out how to use this model.
Fair. Let's get to this, Mohit. In terms of the revenue shift, what do you feel about that? So 200 plus industry models. Here is the fact: IT giants are moving. This is of course your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
IT giants are of course now moving from cool demonstrations to the real money. Launching 200 plus models for banking, farming, and hospitals, as you just mentioned. You glossed over that. What do you feel will the West use? While the West uses AI to write bad poetry, not that you use it, your poetry is wonderful. India is using it to run massive industries. So
I don't think I've ever shown you any of my poetry, but at the same time,
So is
this
this the end of the research theatre is my final point.
So we've been talking about Indian IT for the last 2-3 episodes, right? That they're building a lot of AI agents, they're partnering with a lot of firms. But after the Prime Minister Modi met all these 12 startups, he also met CEOs of these IT firms like HCL Tech, Wipro, and TCS. So the discussion over there was, one thing was about building these 200 plus models that are going to focus on farming, banking, hospitals, like the enterprise part. They are not focusing so much on the Bharat part of things that Sarvam and Bharajan are trying to do. They are trying to build models for enterprises. So that is going to be something very interesting, and the revenue shift is definitely going to happen. Because as we saw with this Anthropic shaking up the whole market, now Indian IT is going to say that we are going to build our own agents, and we are ready to, there's no SaaS apocalypse that are going to happen anymore. So we are self-reliable. So the whole India Summit is just focusing on that self-reliable.
Just to be honest, very encouraging, Mohit. But because of the paucity of time, I know you and I have a lot more to, of course, speak about. But I'd like you to very quickly tell the viewers about tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which I feel has forever excited me. That and the fact that the $90 billion magnet, which is the 2047 bet, which I believe I've spoken to Prabhu also about, which is going to be the magical year. So these 2 points I want you to very quickly touch upon. And then finally, the job losses bit in terms of what's going on.
I think that is the favorite thing you
Which is right at the end.
That's
why
we always talk
the
about
best for the last.
Layoff and job losses. It's sad, but it's okay. So I'll talk about the second question first, the $90 billion magnet. So basically during the budget we covered this, right? That the government has given a tax holiday till 2047. So a lot of these firms from like Google and Microsoft, they're going to come and build data centers, they're not going to pay any tax. So that is eventually going to increase the revenue. But then comes the sovereignty part. The point is there are still Google and Microsoft that are coming up and building data centers. So this tax holiday is also going to give benefits to Jio, Adani Connex, Airtel, and all these companies that are building data centers. So that, I think someone posted on X, I don't remember the name today, that we kind of have to stop giving so much of our data into these models, because we are actually just giving away our intelligence.
That's been going on for so long. That conversation has been going on for so long.
So I think this data center bet is something that is very important. And coming to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities part, that is something that is also very amazing. I'll have to check with more cities that are building these. I don't remember the exact names, but there are a lot of cities in Madhya Pradesh and all these states. So, and as you know that these cities have mostly not spoken so much about AI. So I think the whole pan-India movement kind of a thing, that is a good thing.
It's a big shot in the arm, I feel. I think that'll be a big one. But very quickly, 2 things which have stood out for me. The fact that yes, our states, different states have AI policies as far as the states are concerned, but
Yeah.
what about the national AI policy? That is one. Very quickly, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that? The fact that we are calling the world to us, and what is their feeling going to be that if we don't have an AI policy? That's one. Second, very quickly, I want you to tell me about the job perspective, because we are looking at the figures. I'll,
Yeah.
as always, share with you. I know these
Yeah.
figures give you nightmares, and you wake up at night sweating. 6 million people in IT are at risk of losing repetitive tasks. We've
Yep.
discussed this
Yeah.
till the cows come home,
Yeah.
and they still haven't.
Yeah. So when it comes to the policy part, I'll give you a little bit of a personal perspective. I think we are a little too early in the game of AI development, at least
Okay.
India, to build very large policies or policies make sense. Regulations, I don't think
Kill
so
the
yet.
creativity,
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, it is also said that regulations actually boost people's creativity because they're able to. But I think it's a little
From
bit.
a very interesting point of view. Thank you, Mohit.
But I think policy, I think they might be framing a lot of policies, and I think that must be in the loop. I think they might announce some of them
Okay.
at the Impact Summit. I hope they are good. I hope they are giving more freedom to startups they want to create. Most researchers can create more things.
I'll need, sorry again, Mohit, paucity of time, but your take is it's going to be a big, impactful summit.
Yeah.
So sorry of cutting you through, but we
Yeah.
of course going to restart our discussion and continue with it when we are going to be back with Front Page. But here
Yeah.
it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is Mohit Pandey, as always, bringing his wonderful insights to this discussion. We are truly looking forward to this India AI Impact Summit. There are loads of things which are going to be up front and center on the stage. It's a proud moment for India. We have the international rock stars coming to this particular summit. There's so much to look forward to, and of course we are going to be covering it, and we're going to keep telling you how things will progress. Till then, like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Of course, right now we're going to take a short little break, but when we are back, we have Amit Raja Nayak in a very enthralling discussion, which is called AI Talks. So don't miss it.
Yeah, thank you, Sudhi, for the warm introduction. So, welcome to the AI talk show by AM Network. Shalini, what are we doing today?
So I think, Amit, today we should discuss about what is happening actually in the Karnataka startup funding.
Okay.
I think that is an important conversation. As you know, Karnataka as the Silicon Valley of India, and also it is a launch pad for startups to grow and scale. But a recent report has revealed that Karnataka is going through a phase of recalibration with total investment falling 28% in 2025. So I think that's a conversation that we should have.
Interesting. And I think Bangalore also is called the city of future. So the future looks bleak, or can we expect some correction in the market with the kind of funding?
So I don't think the future is looking bleak because Karnataka has already established its position as a startup playground for many businesses. But I think right now it does not look much in a good shape. So I think we need to relook at what are the criteria or what are the forces that are driving this fall.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's interesting. And surprisingly, the late stage funding was cut nearly in half,
Right.
while early stage funding jumped over 30%.
Right.
So that is the number correct? So that is what is happening?
Yes, yes, that is correct. So early stage funding is somewhat there, but late stage funding has gone down nearly by 50%, which is $1.8 billion.
Got it. And this is a report by Traction.
Right, that this is a report by Traction. And if I have to make a point in case with Maharashtra, I think they both have navigated a venture capitalist reset in 2025, but these two ecosystems are responding in fundamentally different ways. So whereas we see that, Karnataka is trying to rebuild, Maharashtra is kind of rebalancing towards real economy early growth.
Got it, got it. And how is it looking? You mentioned about Maharashtra, but how is it looking in comparison with other states?
So Maharashtra's late stage fall in investment is comparatively lower than Karnataka. So I think the question that should be raised is not about the early stage investment, but what is happening to the late stage investments if we have to look at.
Got it, got it. Interesting. Any other more insight in your story that you're working with?
Yeah, so I think, in the COVID, during the COVID times, we have seen startups getting this euphoria. I mean, there is a euphoria of investment during the COVID times when the startups have got a lot of investments. But somewhere, I think they could not match up to the expectations of the funding, and the revenue generated couldn't match up to that level. And I think that's the reason why the late stage funding of startups in Karnataka is going down, and they're kind of exiting the market, which is I don't see in Maharashtra.
Interesting. I think we have Neha, co-founder of Traction, joining us. I think we should get her. Hi Neha, welcome to the front page. Welcome to the show. Yeah, happy to have you here.
Thanks a lot for having me. Excited to be here.
So yeah, Neha, can you throw some light on the recent report on the Karnataka funding, and can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the roundup of 2025, Karnataka saw about little less than $4 billion being invested, and this is down from last year if you compare it. But actually, the trend that you see is more broad-based. This is also reflective in the overall funding you see in the India tech. So Karnataka was sort of also representative of that, and Bangalore, of course, accounted for bulk of the nearly entire amount of funding which is there in terms of by the institutions. So that continued. There were a few trends, which are there, especially on the early stage, you saw an uptake, but on the late stage, you saw more of a decline.
Correct.
You can actually take it in two ways. So one is obviously the late stage funding has been a little slower, if you see, overall, and the funds which have been typically very active in the late stage, like the likes of the SoftBank, Tiger, obviously they have been very less active. They have not done much, led much deals recently. So that is obviously one of the reasons which is there. The other reason which is also very interesting is that a lot of the companies are choosing public markets, choosing to access the public capital, I would say, instead of the late stage private round funding. That is the other interesting trend, which is also started probably in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, and it has sort of been increasing. So this year, if you look at it, the number of companies which IPO'd from Bangalore as compared to last year, that's an increase, right? And as compared to like 3 years back, it's like a very high increase. So that is the other interesting trend that you also see. So a lot of the companies, instead of sort of raising more private capital in the later stage, are also thinking about the option of having, raising that in the public markets.
Got it, got it. I think Shalini brought up important like comparison with other states. So how does it look? How does Karnataka look when comparison with other state? Like, is it better, or is there any correction required in the coming days?
Right. So overall, I would say the impact is there, in all the key states, which are the funding hubs. But it is obviously different. So in Karnataka, it has been sort of more pronounced, I would say, in the later stage versus if you look at the deal activity as compared to some of the other states. But having said that, I would say there are some elements, there are some sectors which are obviously going higher over here versus some of the other states. But I would say there is impact that you can see across.
Understood, understood. And also, Neha, a recent major development happened earlier this week. I think not much has been spoken about this across different platforms. So I just want to know, like, India has quietly rewritten the rule for deep tech and raising turnover caps to 300 crores. So I wanted your take on this in terms of, what actually changed and, why this matters now.
No, that's a very interesting development that has happened, initiated by the government in terms of the relaxation of the definition of startups, especially for the deep tech startups.
Correct.
So obviously they have extended the year, from 10 years to 20 years, and also the turnover threshold, from 200 to 300 crore. So
Correct.
making it more relaxed. And it's probably closer to reality, because if you look at the deep tech startups especially, the time required for R&D is longer, and the time required for commercialization is longer.
Okay.
So it shouldn't happen that companies working towards it, and by the time they have not even launched like a fully commercial model, they actually lose some of the benefits which is given to them, because of the startup tag, because of a lot of the government grants, etc., which are, they are able to access because of it, they lose it. So I think this is more closer to how, it is reality, because if you see for a lot of sectors, it does take time. And also the other thing which has also happened is that the government is also, has this pool of investment, like the RDI investment, corpus, which is there, which is also helping, fill the gap, which is not entirely filled by the VC funds, I would say, because a lot of these deep tech startups require more patient capital. So it is also filling in, some of those gaps that is much needed.
Got it. And Neha, just for our viewers, can you tell in simple words, what problem does this finally fix for, deep tech founders? What does it unleash for them to, can we see, companies like DeepMind and Thinking Machines emerging from India? Finally, like, this sets a new framework for all of the startup founders, and finally they can actually think long term and build some insane AI research labs and research companies here, thinking about the long-term game. Can you tell how exciting this is?
Yeah. No, this is definitely exciting. So I think, if someone would have asked you, like 5 years back, would India have produced space tech companies which would have launched a rocket? The answer would have been no, right? And the fact of the matter is that there are more than one company who are in the space tech space right now, who have launched rockets or who are launching satellites, etc. Right?
Got it.
And so I think it's a lot about developing that ecosystem. So once you have one of those, a few companies which have become large in a particular space, that actually creates a lot more companies in that ecosystem. And that initial capital, having just that more risk capital supported by the government is super helpful in getting that ecosystem started.
Got it.
Right? So that is, that is why this is a fairly, very interesting, I would say, for a lot of the deep tech spaces, right? Like, for instance, semiconductor is one of them, biotech is one of them. Space tech is one of them. I think the government's role has been very helpful. Like, even for if you take the space, like space tech, right? Like, in addition to the funds, government have also, have that close collaboration with ISRO, which has helped a lot of the startups launch things much faster than they would have done themselves, right? So I think this is super helpful in creating ecosystems, and the government has talked about their plans of making India a good hub for semiconductor, etc. Right? And EV is definitely one of the focus areas also. So, once you create that ecosystem, you provide that initial risk capital, right? It just helps in expanding those industry. And if you look at it in a holistic sense, the amount of investments that happens from the private, from the VC funds, I would say, in the deep tech startups, it's still, like, in India is, just 1.6 billion last year, which is probably 1/80th of what it is there in China and US, right? So it's still a very small fraction which is there, which the VCs can, actually support. And if India has to produce more and more of these deep tech startups, which is now very strategic for a lot of the countries as well, then it just needs a little bit of more of that risk capital, right? And it's great to see that the government has stepped into that.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you,
So
Neha. I think Shalini has a
yes,
question. Here.
so Neha, just one question. Do you think that even the VCs and the investors are being very selective about the portfolios they are choosing? Because you talked about the deep tech, and if any startup has to grow and scale in future, it has to be like space tech, material science, nanotech, and etc. So do you think that the VCs and the investors are very careful when they are putting their money on?
So yes, so traditionally VC is very good for, I would say, innovation, but a lot of these invention type of companies actually have much longer gestation period, right? So like a lot of them actually falls outside the traditional VC investment thesis, right? And but it's great to see that for the last couple of years there have been funds which have talked about the fact that they are investing in deep tech, they're investing in all these companies, right? And it's great to see some more funds do more and more of this, because it's very difficult for a VC, for instance, who does not have that deep domain experience to actually tell whether this company will be able to launch a rocket before they actually do, right? So I think obviously there is there is less amount, I would say, or less understanding as much as required for this deep tech startups to have their backers early on. But once you have that wheel going, I would say, then you have more and more investors coming into this space.
Right.
Got it, got it. Again, Neha, coming back to the founders' thesis, right? Like, I just want to know, like, does this policy finally, remove that false failure signal, and how big is that psychologically and financially for founders? What is your take on that?
Yes, definitely. I think this is very positive for the founders, because a lot of time they have to depend on some of these schemes for getting loan at lower rates, like debt at lower rates, or some help in equity. And anecdotally, like a lot of the government schemes which have come about even earlier, which have helped through the fund of funds, they have actually percolated down to the startups as well. So now you hear a lot of about startups in the early stage who actually raised their round, in which part of the round was actually funded by some of the fund which is backed by some of these government schemes. So you do hear about that anecdotally, and once you fill that gap, which is probably only partially filled by the private capital, I would say, by the government. I think this is very comforting for the founders to actually, when they decide to jump into this space of deep tech, any of the industry within deep tech, because they're not worried about the fact that whether the funding will come or not.
Got it. So no fear now. Like, I think they can plunge into the unknown territories and work for the long term there. Interesting. So on the capital depth versus policy intent there, so India's deep tech funding rebounded to almost like 1.65 billion in 2025, but there is still tiny compared to, like you mentioned, US or China, right? So will this policy change actually pull in more Series A and growth stage capital, or is funding depth still the real bottleneck? Yeah.
So definitely that is the idea, and I think it is two ways. So one is, it fills the gap of capital which is required temporarily, in parts, I would say, small steps. The other thing it is, it also helps in the talent development. So once you have a lot of people who have worked in that industry, they are more likely to produce good world-class companies, in that space, right? Like we saw in so many of the other things, right? Like you had this whole SaaS, cluster of companies in Chennai, coming out of Zoho and Freshworks, right? So you do have that clustering is actually very real, right? And you see it in all the countries. And once you have that, I think that is going to be sort of very helpful in both, the capital in parts as well as development of talent.
Amazing, amazing. And you mentioned about the RDI fund and long horizon investing there. So how important is the 1 trillion RDI fund in making this policy real, and where do you expect it to have the bigger impact? Like already I think you touched upon this, like either semiconductors or space, climate, or manufacturing, or all of these.
Yes. So actually, yes, it's very exciting to see that government has allocated such a large budget for investment in this ecosystem through various ways. And even in the earlier, so what has changed probably in the last 10 years? Like 10 years back, you would not have heard about any of the companies raising fund because of a government scheme, right? And that has changed probably, I would say, in the last 2 to 3 years, wherein you hear about companies who have in their rounds have had any of those schemes back, right? So I think this it's great to see that not only that the fund has been announced, but the president has that the percolation has also happened in the startups around you. So hopefully this also gets into the right areas and to the right founders, and hopefully provides them the backing when they need it.
Got it. And one final question before I let you go. So the final test, right? So staying and scaling from India, like everybody's talking about this. Like there's a lot of news and reports on a lot of startup founders going to the US with their O1 visa. So we've been reading a lot of reports on this. So looking ahead, do these changes meaningfully reduce the pressure on deep tech founders to move headquarters like overseas, either in US or Singapore, or will access to customer and late stage capital still decide where companies scale? Neha.
So that's a great question, and hopefully, that happens in a few years.
Okay.
So I think, today, if you look at the difference in capital, that's huge, right? Like if you look at the earnings call of some of the US companies, they talk about investment of, 100 billion by just one company, right? Like Google, Meta, and that's huge as compared to, the kind of risk capital that's available, in India, for instance. And that is why if you look at, the whole AI and the whole infrastructure layer, the amount of capital that has been pumped into that in US, right? If you compare that to India is obviously that is much larger. India is much smaller. So hopefully as that capital becomes more, and you do require that initial risk capital to get that going. And once you have more of it, then you'll probably see more and more founders choosing India. This has already happened for a lot of the sectors, I would say, right? Except for some of the core deep tech sector, wherein say if you have to do semiconductor, a lot of times you hear people going outside, and this already for a lot of the if you want to do a software startup or a consumer startup, India has become the de facto startup, right? De facto location for that, and hopefully through all these things, once it becomes hub for more deep tech innovation, then you will probably see more founders choosing to start their companies in India.
And Neha, when we talk about the investment, so do we also hoping to see more of investment going in tier 2 and tier 3 cities in terms of startup investment?
So right now, it is a little skewed, obviously, and the top 3-4 metros actually account for most of the funding which is there. There are some of the things which are changing. The whole thing about like the Make in India, the manufacturing. So you see a lot of the manufacturing hubs which are in non-top tier, the top metros, right? And that is why you also see a lot of the companies coming out from a lot of the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And once that probably happens, you'll probably see some of those cities becoming large. Right, it has already started to happen in some of the sectors like D2C brands that you would see, and so you'll probably see some of those sectors also becoming large.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, Neha. Any final message to the investors and founders to, like cash in with the opportunity? Like, what is your final message to the founders and investors to take advantage of the opportunity that this new framework and the policy presents to them?
Yeah, I would say to the founders, who have been thinking about whether to take a plunge in deep tech, because obviously that requires a much longer gestation period. It's not like launching the consumer product. I think now it's a great time. You would also have, thanks to all the schemes which is there, and you also have a lot of the private participation which has also come, right? So on lines of the government participation, you also had the private consortium who announced sort of more, doing more in the deep tech space.
Correct.
So hopefully you'll also see some of the traditional VCs which have stayed away from this space to be starting to invest in this space.
Got it.
So, if you're thinking about starting something, it's a good time.
Amazing, amazing. I think the timing also is perfect. I think India AI Impact Summit also is happening around the corner, I think in the coming days there. So I think this policy fits in very perfectly. I think a lot of people would be happy to talk about this, and I think this is a very positive step from the government and the ecosystem there. And I wish you all the best, Neha, and I think we'll be coming back to you with a lot of questions and insights as usual. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much, Neha.
Thank you, Neha,
for your time. Yeah. Yeah, that's it, folks. Shalini, one final thought that I had while I was going through this was if this framework works as intended, right? So it could finally give India the conditions to build its own deep mind, or thinking machines, or even SpaceX kind of companies, which takes like a longer duration to build something meaningful and and all of that back here at India. So yeah, what was your final take from this?
So I think, the VCs or investors, I think when they are investing in deep tech, I think they I think they have to, have more patience. Like Neha rightly said that, you cannot just invest today and tomorrow you cannot get the product. So it is something that is developing, and the entire world is, finding newer models and new research every day. So it's just that we need to have patience, and we have to, and I think the policy gives you a lot of leverage to do that, and bring out some amazing startups to the world.
Exciting times. Talking about startups, we would be covering them here and discussing more on this show. So thank you for joining us today, and this is the AI Talk Show by AM Network, and your daily dose of AI and tech dialogues. And always remember,
Think AI.
Think AI.